Today on the Dapper Wrist, I'm going to be talking about the Pagani Design Chronograph Sport, the PD-1644. This chronograph is a copy/homage to the Rolex Daytona. And unlike the watches featured so far on this channel, this chronograph does not belong to me. A good friend of mine purchased this timepiece from the AliExpress website. He paid 60 bucks. In June of this year, 2020, the watch was listed at $62.99. It had been on his radar, and when a sale came along offering a $3 coupon, he quickly pulled the trigger. But not wanting to risk scratching up his bracelet, I dared not size it up for my wrist. So take some of this review with a grain of salt. Still, one doesn't have to wear this chronograph to see how much great value for money this Pagani has to offer. Now, we can't praise Pagani design for the design in this chronograph. That clearly belongs to Rolex. But what we can commend them for is its construction. It surprisingly features a sapphire crystal, ceramic bezel, the Seiko Mecha Quartz VK63A. The hybrid movement makes the second counter hand tick 5 times per second. The 60-minute counter sub-dial for the chronograph function is found at the 9 o'clock position. The AM/PM 24-hour sub-dial is placed at the 3 o'clock position, leaving the second sub-dial at the 6 o'clock position, keeping track of time. The movement also features a date window between the 5 and the 4-hour markers. But there's more. Signed screw-down crown, giving the watch 100 meters of water resistance. Both pushers for the chronograph function also screw down. Polished stainless steel case, bracelet, stainless steel with a stainless steel milled clasp that has a safety lock. But that's still not it. Solid end links. Solid links with screw pins with a screw-on case back. Now that's a bunch of watch for way less than $100. I'm gonna make a claim I hope I get to recant someday. I don't think the Dapper Wrist is gonna feature a better spec watch at this price. But it ain't perfect either. These 7 and 3-hour indices are not centered correctly. As you can see, that 7-hour marker appears to be too close to the left and should go more to the right. Now that chopped up 3-hour indice, is it just me or does it need to go a bit down? Some of the other applied hour markers appear to be off as well, but those two are the most obvious to me. Look at that one. So I really can't fault this watch for anything else because of its price point. But I do have a few critiques I won't place as negatives. With regards to the bracelet, because I didn't wear the watch, I'm clearly not qualified to judge its merits. Furthermore, I prefer dress watches, and most come with leather bands, so my experience with bracelets is quite limited. But for the sake of the review, this is what I took note. The trinity of watch head, bracelet, and clasp make for a cohesive trifecta. And even though it's lacking a smooth transition where the end links meet the lugs, here and see my nail getting caught there, it's not an imperfection that can be seen. The oyster style bracelet brushed on either side of those polished center links, with the clasp maintaining that aesthetic. The clasp is easy enough to operate. I just clip my nail, so it's not that easy for me. A little loose where they hinge, but it doesn't worry me. Now the bottom edges of the side links, they feel sharp. Doesn't make the watch a nightmare to wear, but that is something that will be felt when putting on and taking off the watch. But check out that handset with those indices. It's a good pair. And it's all because of Rolex. Now it's measurements. The case measures just under 40 millimeters. 42.5 when we include the crown guards. That and the bulk of these pushers suggest that this watch could wear like a 41 millimeter watch. 48.1 lug to lug length. But when we measure male end link to male end link, we get a 52.9 millimeter length. But check that out. It's a good thing that those links fall flat on the back of that watch. It makes the larger length somewhat inconsequential. 20 millimeter lug width with a 16 millimeter taper at the clasp. And let's not forget 11.5 millimeter height. This watch is gonna slide under any cuff. Personally, these measurements are above what I prefer. But as you can see, it's not too big for my 6 1/4 inch wrist. Having a hybrid movement, the Pagani Chronograph Sport has a satisfying click and feel when operating the chronograph function. When compared to most quartz chronographs, this Pagani has a more fulfilling experience. Let's take, for example, the Citizen Equidrive. The top pusher starts the counter with a click that is both heard and felt. Pressing that same pusher to stop it feels hollow and nothing is heard. I have to visually check to see the second counter stop to make sure that I stopped it and pressed it correctly. Comparing it to the Shinola, stopping the second counter feels way better. Now I didn't hear anything. I didn't hear that click, but I know I stopped the count because I clearly felt it. But of these three chronographs, I have to give it to the Seiko Mecha Quartz. Starting, stopping, and resetting the chronograph counter is more satisfying. Now, it's not going to compare to a mechanical or an automatic watch. You only need to hear the difference to know that's true. But that's really not a fair fight. If you've held off from buying this watch due to fears of quality because it's so cheap, made in China from a lesser known brand, you have nothing to worry about. This watch is robust with a Seiko movement. Besides, it is precisely because it's made in China and the lack of history to the brand, among other things, that make it possible for Pagani Design to offer such an unbeatable value for money watch. But they really do need to drop the name Pagani Design. I mean, specifically design. As far as I can tell, none of their watches are of the design. They should just be Pagani. And until the next Dapper Wrist video, be safe, y'all.